Amidst unpredictable weather and immense pressure at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps Circuit, the world witnessed an iconic moment: Lewis Hamilton's electrifying comeback. Starting from the back of the grid, Hamilton raced with the speed and composure of a true champion. His performance defied predictions and shook Ferrari's strategy, leaving Charles Leclerc speechless with disbelief. Could this be a sign that the legend isn't finished writing his glorious chapter in Formula One? Let's discuss it. The disaster began in Saturday's qualifying session. For the first time in years, Lewis Hamilton was eliminated in Q1. It wasn't due to a strategy error or bad weather. His Ferrari SF25 was simply undrivable. While the other drivers sped away, Hamilton was stuck with a car that felt like it was running on ice. What happened? Ferrari had secretly installed experimental components in the suspension floor system. The hope was to improve stability and aerodynamics, but the result was the opposite. The car lost its balance completely. In simulations of fast corners like Blanchimont or Puhan, the car became unstable and shifted wildly without warning. Hamilton repeatedly warned the team that something was wrong. However, his feedback was ignored. The result? Not only did he fail to qualify for Q2, his car was deemed unsafe for the starting grid. Ferrari had no choice but to overhaul the entire setup overnight and send Hamilton to the pit lane. From that position, a driver would usually just defend and attempt damage control. But Hamilton chose war after a painful elimination from qualifying. Ferrari finally came to their senses. They removed the ineffective experimental components that had actually worsened performance. They raised the ride height to prevent bouncing in Spa's fast corners and softened the rear damping settings to improve rear tire traction. This was a crucial step for stability when accelerating out of corners. Further revisions were also made. To the aerodynamics. The airflow map was adjusted to make the car more manageable when entering the notoriously technical and unpredictable sector, too. Did all this make the SF24 a perfect car? Absolutely not. But the results were enough to make Lewis Hamilton feel like he had something to fight for. Sometimes, it's that confidence that fuels a great comeback. It's a fire that finally reignites within him. When the starting lights flashed on the slippery, pit-filled Spa track, Lewis Hamilton didn't wait for luck to strike. He created it himself. Despite starting from the pit lane, he immediately demonstrated his world champion caliber. It took him less than a lap to start overtaking his opponents. Each maneuver was calculated, not reckless. Hamilton zipped through a rouge at near-impossible speeds on a damp track, exploited the slipstream on the Kemmel Straight like a maestro, squeezed through La Source without touching an opponent's wheel, and attacked the bus stop chicane with heavenly precision that few in Formula One history have ever seen. There were no wild moves, no unnecessary drama, just a driver who knows the fine line between aggression and perfect control, displaying technique, instinct, and courage. Most strikingly, the usually buzzing Ferrari radio team suddenly went silent, not because they were lost, but because they were at a loss for words. They could only watch, stunned, as Hamilton created a racing masterpiece and quietly learned from him. What happened at Spa wasn't just a comeback. It was a powerful, wordless statement from Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari and, perhaps, the entire Formula One paddock. If you want to hear it, here's what I can do. That's the point. The car didn't suddenly become faster by magic, but when the team finally started listening to Hamilton and taking his input and experience into account, the change was immediate. Like many other teams, Ferrari has placed too much faith in data, simulations, and colorful graphics on the monitor. They've forgotten that there's a human behind the wheel. Not just any human, but a 7-time world champion whose instincts have been honed over 2 decades of racing. Hamilton has proven that instinct, feeling, and experience remain the most powerful tools in an increasingly algorithm-driven world. This wasn't just a technical message, it was an emotional warning from a living legend. While Charles Leclerc performed poorly and Carlos Sainz struggled due to a chaotic strategy, Lewis Hamilton was the center of attention throughout the paddock. His on-track actions brought the stands and commentators to their feet, and social media exploded. Hashtags like #Hamilton Masterclass and #Driver of the Day immediately dominated global trending topics. But the most interesting thing wasn't just what was happening on the track. It was also what was happening inside the Ferrari garage. The atmosphere behind the pit wall was heating up. Several internal sources revealed that there were already many dissenting voices questioning the team's technical direction and, more importantly, whether Ferrari was truly listening to Hamilton. Had the world champion's input been dismissed as idle chatter? Or had the team become so preoccupied with their own experiments that they forgot their driver was anything but ordinary? Now that question was beginning to resonate, not just within Ferrari, but throughout the paddock. After the race, Lewis Hamilton stood before the journalists with striking composure. Unlike other drivers in pressured situations, there was no high-pitched tone or sarcasm in his voice. There was no finger-pointing. In fact, he began with a sincere message to the team. He thanked them for listening to his input and for making the crucial technical changes that finally made his car a contender. But that wasn't what silenced the paddock. His next words, delivered in a calm yet meaningful tone, got to the heart of it all. This race reminds me of my youth, when it was all about pure racing. When you fight from behind with everything you've got, and when that happens, you remember why you love this sport. It wasn't just a reflection. It was an emotional message from a world champion who still races not for the title, but for the love of racing itself. It wasn't just a beautiful quote. It was a heartfelt message from a world champion reconnecting with his racing soul. It was a candid admission that, for the first time in a while, he felt connected to his car. When that connection resurfaced, Hamilton didn't just race, he inspired. His extraordinary performance at Spa left the entire Formula One world speechless and in awe. Commentators called it one of the best individual performances of the last 5 years. Even former rival and world champion Nico Rosberg couldn't hide his admiration on live German TV. It wasn't just racing, it was a demonstration of power. Hamilton still has it all: speed, control, and a winning mentality. The atmosphere in the paddock changed. Team principals quietly acknowledged that this wasn't a fluke. Analysts described it as the beginning of a new era for Ferrari. One conclusion emerged repeatedly. If Ferrari wanted to recover, they had to build everything around Hamilton, not the other way around. They couldn't force him to adapt to an outdated system that was no longer relevant. Today, Hamilton had proven that he wasn't finished. With proper support, he could take Ferrari back to the top, as seen at Spa. When the car isn't working against him and he's listening, Lewis will work miracles. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a reminder that in a sport full of sensors, data, and calculations, human emotion and the determination of a legend are irreplaceable. Could this be a turning point in the relationship between the driver and the technical team? How close could they have come to building a championship-winning car had they trusted Lewis's instincts from the beginning? Leave your thoughts below.